And welcome back. My name is Joe Symmes. My company is Fixin RV, and this is the Smart RV Podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, John Vanek. John, over to you.
Hello, everyone. John Vanek, podcasting from beautiful Douglas County, Nevada. If you're not
Douglas
familiar with it.
County. Where's that?
Well, I was going to say, it's northern Nevada, an hour south of Reno and about a half hour away from beautiful South Lake Tahoe. We live in the high desert at 5,000 feet, and it's a beautiful place to live, and there's a wonderful community in which to be a mobile RV tech. Lots of RVs, not only, reside in our area, if you will, homeowners that have RVs, enjoy RVs, but also a lot of people that are living full-time in RVs in some of the parks and resorts around us, and just a great community. And Joe, you are in beautiful Gulfport, Mississippi.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. It's no northern Nevada, but for those of us east of the Mississippi, this is heaven, especially this time of year. It's a hot heaven. Yeah, hot and humid here in August, but we are loving it because it doesn't get cold. So this is the time of year where we pay for that beautiful January and February.
So our listeners, I'm sorry, apologies up front. You'll just have to put up with Joe and I debating the virtue or lack of virtue in humidity readings. Okay. We are all about the humidity. I think I'm sitting at about, 35, maybe 30, maybe 15% humidity here at the moment. And Joe is like at 115% humidity.
We love to compare because this time of year, I would guess the temperature is probably about the same, but what it feels like is nowhere close. We drop down to about 75% and then go right back up throughout the day, where I think if his skin gets more than like 25% humidity on it, I think he will start to melt.
Yeah. And that's why I'm a Sierra Nevada guy. Okay.
So other than lots of witty banter about the weather, folks tune in to Smart RV to hear some wonderful tips and tricks and maybe some inside scoop from RV technicians. And so I'd like to jump right into our most requested segment, our number one hit feature, our famous Beside the Pedestal.
Yeah. We always open with Beside the Pedestal because these are tips and ideas that we think are valuable for everybody to know. If you aren't already familiar with them, they are definitely worth reinforcing if you do know them. And these are the things that are going to help you keep you and your RV safe. And this is I don't know if we'd call it it's not an uncommon issue. You get your RV, Class A, whatever it is, okay, travel trailer, you back it into your RV spot, or if you're lucky, you have a pull through, you get everything set up, and you go to open your slide, and it's going to want to run into the pedestal. Or there's, the big safety baller right next to the pedestal. So
how can we avoid that?
Well, two ways. One, when I get out of my truck and I go look at where the position is of my trailer relative to the pedestal, obviously I'm looking to see if I can position it so my slide out is not going to hit it to the left or right. Okay. But sometimes you don't have that option. So then the next question is, what is the distance from the pedestal or that bollard to your slide out once you've extended the slide out?
Right.
So a good thing to do is, one, carry a tape measure and know what the measurement is of your slide box once it's extended, right? If you don't want to carry a tape measure in the truck and have it handy, get a piece of string or small piece of rope at home or wherever you're safe, pull out the slide, put a knot in one end right next to the wall of your RV, and then go out to where the outside of the slide is, tie another knot. Now you've got a piece of string. You can easily throw that in your door or wherever. And now you pull that out. And so before you let your slide out, stick one corner against the wall, extend it. Am I hitting the bollard or the pedestal? No, I'm good. Now I can open my slide. Quick and easy way to make sure you don't just put yourself in a position where now you have to start moving your rig around. So
I love
simple
that,
tip,
John. Love
but
that. I think I saw down here in Mississippi, I saw a fella jump out of his truck one time. Of course, he didn't have any shoes on. Ran over to his RV and put his back up against the wall and held his hand out. Um, and
ah,
little redneck genius there, because I realized later his arm he had already pre-measured was the same length of his slide. So sometimes you don't even need other materials. Um,
and I guess if you're lucky, the length of your arm is the same depth of your slide.
yeah, if not, you may want to buy a different RV. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go. Upgrade, right? Upgrade.
Of course, another tip is you can always get a dry erase or a grease pencil or something and just write the measurement on the side if you can't remember. The tech that comes to visit you will definitely appreciate having some statistics there on the side of your RV.
Well, there's, people might sit here and say, well, why are these two technicians talking about something as simple as this? Okay. So, part of our jobs these days is, we do spend a fair amount of time in RV parks and resorts, and not just serving our clients, but also looking around at what else is going on. And there's a lot of jokes about this. If you've been an RVer for any length of time, there's lots of jokes about watching people back in their trailers or park their trailer, all that stuff, right?
It's a
But
real
it can be
pastime.
quite, yeah. But it can be, a very educational thing to watch other RVers arrive or when they're departing, particularly if you're new. I'm totally serious on this. It can be very educational to watch them, and not watching for their mistakes, but to see the tips and tricks that they've developed to manage these things that, one, you don't want to break your RV. And we've all broken stuff. I mean, we won't go there right now, but we've all broken things on RVs, but you can learn a lot by watching others and talking to your neighbors and stuff. So,
Yeah, and
Joe, what's
I
your tip for the week?
well,
Or the
I'd say the flip side of that is if you get to the park and all of a sudden you find a crowd is gathered around and they're drinking their beer and they're watching you back in, don't look at this as intimidating or uh, fearful or something to make you nervous. Just realize that you're helping them learn. You're doing your part to help a junior RVer figure it out. So, yeah, no, my beside the pedestal tip, beautiful in that it flows right with our theme here. So, motorhome guys, I'll give you a pass on this one, but anything towable, be very careful about chalking your wheels. So keep in mind, there are not parking brakes on towables, whether it's a fifth wheel or a travel trailer. So once you get to the campground and you're getting all set up and you're down to the last step where you're unhooking from your truck, your towed vehicle, again, whether it's a fifth wheel or travel trailer, I always have on my checklist to make sure the wheels are chalked, because once that jack goes down and it raises up off the vehicle, you're at gravity's mercy then. And those stabilizers that are down on the ground maybe, or landing gear on a fifth wheel, don't necessarily stop a slide, a sliding incident, not a slide out. And so you don't want your trailer running into the back of your truck after you unhook it, or slipping away the other direction. Make sure those wheels are chalked. That's your parking brake.
Do you have a preference for design, size,
Uh,
materials for your chocks?
excellent question. Because no, doesn't matter. You would be amazed. It's one of those cases in life where something's infinitely better than nothing. You can do everything from expedient field repair, ad hoc, whatever you want to call it. I saw this rock over here and we put under the tire, a brick, a 2x4, anything. The preferred, if you've got a little more time and the budget to afford a nice piece of plastic, um, Walmart, Camping World, any place, they usually sell little plastic wheel chalks, kind of a moon-shaped curve, triangle, look like big door stops, anything like that goes well and will go a long ways. But to answer your question, John, I know it's way more important to have something there than nothing at all.
I know my preference, we'll probably talk about this again in the future in more detail. Um, After a negative experience, I'll leave it at that. Well, actually, I had the BAL X chocks. The ones that, they're mechanical and you slide them in between your two
Yeah,
tires
wedged
and you
between the
wrench
tires.
them
Yep.
and they expand and they lock it down. Those are my go-to. And particularly if you're going to be, not only do they help as a safety measure for the rig itself moving around, but also they really stabilize the rest. That they
Mm,
stabilize my travel trailer. So while we're inside living in it, less movement, much more solid feel. So, but yeah,
yeah. And did you know on some of those they even have a ring of holes around the top, and if you need to, if you parked in that campground in the sketchy neighborhood, or if you're in long-term storage or something, you can put a lock through those, and that's kind of another unique way to lock down your trailer from theft.
that's a great idea. Yeah, I don't think I knew that. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying now.
Yeah,
Well, so sometimes, luckily, more often than not, our personal security in most RV resorts and campgrounds, it's not a major concern, but
right.
obviously sometimes it is, and particularly if you're putting in long-term storage. Good
Yeah, it's
point.
great to have the
Good
option.
point.
So, John, as being a mobile RV technician, have you had any interesting calls this week? Tell us what you found.
Um, yeah. So call of the week. Uh, Unfortunate situation, but with a very good ending. So, I get a call from a client, and they're like, "Hey, our AC unit, air conditioning, is not working." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, like, how long ago did it work?" And the answer was, "Well, it never worked."
Uh-oh.
And so I'm like, "Well, how old's the rig?" Well, so short. Long story short,
And they called you in the middle
um,
of the summer, I see.
of course, in August, right about August 5th, and anyway, so they had purchased a trailer, um, and actually a horse trailer with a live-in quarters, very nice trailer, and but they don't use it that often. But the first time they used it in the summertime, the AC didn't work. And unfortunately, what they did is they just did not jump on the issue quickly enough. They thought they had a much longer warranty on the air conditioning unit than they actually have. And so they realized that they've had the rig maybe about 3 years. The warranty on the air conditioning unit itself is 2 years. So anyway, I go out, check it out, and sure enough, the compressor is bad. And I can only go with what the client says, but certainly I trust them. But it's really interesting to me that they said it never worked from day one. That should have been tested during the PDI or pre-delivery inspection because they bought the unit new, and the failed compressor. It's a pretty major component. And for our viewers out there, if you're not familiar with it, um, RV air conditioning units are hermetically sealed. You cannot put more Freon. It's not Freon anymore, but you cannot put in coolant. You cannot replace a compressor. The whole unit has to be replaced. And we're in kind of a funky place right now with air conditioners because if you don't know, right, Joe, I think it was February of this year,
Yeah, yeah, February.
all air conditioners made after February of this year have to have a new refrigerant in it. So old units are going away, new units are coming in to replace those. If you're retrofitting for swapping out for an older unit, you might need some new electrical things. It's kind of a hodgepodge right now. We're all kind of working our way through it. But anyway, I said, you know what? Give the manufacturer a call, see what they'll say. And luckily, this manufacturer of the rig itself, so it was a Coleman unit, so not AirXL, but it was the manufacturer of their trailer is going to replace it for them.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
very good, because it's a year out of warranty. So they're really standing by their client. It was great news. But my point is this, is that particularly if you have a new rig, is understand what the warranties are on your various components. And if you have an issue, I mean, we all kick the can down the road sometimes, but don't. Get it? Because you know what? If your furnace isn't working right now and you wait until December, you're going to be cold.
Oh, yeah.
Get it
So,
fixed before
John, when
you.
it comes to replacing an AC, um, there's three parts of that, right? The AC, the control board, and the thermostat. Do I have that correct?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Did
Yep.
you need to swap all three for this client?
So be honest with you, I don't know. They called me back, said, hey, the manufacturer asked them to take it to one of the manufacturer's
Uh,
shops. And they were like, well, if we stay home, maybe John, the mobile guy, can do the swap. And my recommendation to them in this particular case, because the company was going to warranty and put in a new AC, and to be honest with you, I don't know what brand or model of AC they're going to put in.
oh, I see.
Frankly,
I
right
see.
now, if you happen to have a Dometic Penguin 2 on your RV, probably as of August 10th, 2025, you probably cannot find a new Penguin 2 anywhere. They are
Yep.
all
Yep.
gone. Period. Boom. And this happens to be a Coleman, but I think you're going to talk about this in a little bit in terms of the sort of information that RV techs need to know when someone calls us with an issue. And model number and serial number can also play a critical role in what part you are going to buy or obtain to replace a failed part or a failed unit in this case. And so because the company was going to take it on, my recommendation to them was that they take the 3-hour drive, take it back over to the shop, let them work on everything, because they could run into some issues with the thermostat and or the control
Yep.
board.
Yep.
And better that it's they're doing it rather than interject the mobile tech. I'm here, they're not. It's just lack of communication issues, potentially, all these things. I think it was just the better call. That was my recommendation to them.
Yeah, no, excellent point. And thanks, that kind of makes a good segue. When you call you customers out there, when you call the mobile tech, here's would like to pass along some tips on how to speak to your mobile tech. What information do they need? I don't want to say what information do they not need, because they basically need it all. But the big wives' tale or internet lore or whatever that I'd like to dispel is, just because you pass the tech your make, model, number, um, and maybe the exact manufacturer, that doesn't necessarily clue them in as to what type of air conditioner or refrigerator you have. RVs and the RV industry is
I
not.
think I'm sorry, Joe. I think you're talking about when the client conveys the make and model and number of the RV
uh,
itself.
Right, the RV itself. Yeah,
Yes,
it's
I,
not.
I have a 2019 Jayco 12345.
Yeah,
That doesn't help you much, does it?
It, right. It's going to be important information to know. I'm not saying don't talk about that at all. But RV industry is not quite like the automotive industry, where I can't necessarily look up and say, oh, okay, therefore he has this even number of ACs or this type of refrigerator or that classification of water heater. Can vary. RV manufacturers are notorious for kind of swapping out mid-year in between different manufacturers of appliances and things like that. So yeah, let's say your refrigerator is not working. You're calling a mobile tech. They're going to need to know the make and model of RV you have, but that's kind of secondary to, is it a Coleman? Is it a Furrion? Is it an Everchill? What kind of refrigerator do you have? What's the model number? Um, and if these things are hard to get or hard to understand, even just a picture of the outside of the unit or the data plate or anything,
I,
passing
I,
that to the tech can help.
I was going to say, Joe, where you find this information on a data plate or a data tag,
Mhm.
and where might you find that on a water heater or a refrigerator or a furnace?
Yeah, so usually it's inside of easy access cover. So on a refrigerator, it may be inside the door on one of the sidewalls. On a water heater, maybe as soon as you open the outside access panel. Unfortunately, on ACs, generally you have to take the cover off on the roof, and that's normally beyond kind of the DIY or the average customer. They're calling us because they don't want to be on the roof. Um, but at least a picture from the ground, we can see the shroud. You'd be surprised. A lot of our VTechs are pretty knowledgeable and can tell a good amount of information on the different years, models, whatnot of ACs just by a picture of the shroud, even taken from the ground. So, yeah, passing that along, email it to them. I think probably every mobile tech out there nowadays has a cell phone. Don't be afraid to send a text or a picture right before or after you call them, and that can help the tech prepare. John, to your point earlier, can have the right tools with you, have the right spare parts already ordered and on the truck, and make the first visit more productive.
So I think you were going to tell us about your call of the week, which is kind of tied in this because you had to do a converter removal and replacement, correct?
Yeah, exactly. I had a customer, kind of my unique call this week. Customer knew that he had a bad converter. And as a quick reminder, converter takes 120 volts AC and makes 12-volt DC. So it's often referred to as a converter charger. And there's a fan on them. You can sometimes hear them run if you know your rig really well. They're frequently in the power distribution panel or near it. And this customer had owned his coach for a while. It was a few years older, and he knew that his converter had gone out. So he calls me
How did
to.
he know? How was he able to self-diagnose that it was likely a converter issue?
So he knew it was going out because kept getting a low battery. He was checking his monitor panel and realized his battery voltage wasn't up to what it should be. He started getting a few low battery warnings, and he knew that the converter was also a battery charger. So he said, "Hey, yep, gonna need you to come fix this." I said, "No problem." He was going to be in the area for a few days. I had a bunch of other calls already lined up, so we scheduled it a couple days out. Well, come to find out, your lesson here is, he said, yeah, this is not a big deal because it's hot, it's summertime, but I'm still able to run air conditioning and whatnot. Well, he calls me the next day and says, hey, can you get here any faster? Keep in mind, I'm still more than a day out at this point because the air conditioner just quit, and now one bank of lights doesn't work, and I got a few outlets going out. What was happening was he was running without charging his batteries. He was running all these 12-volt
Ah.
loads just off the battery itself. And as the battery was dying, it was not able to send 12-volt signals to any of the appliances. Well, a lot of
So
folks don't
maybe,
realize.
excuse me, Joe, expand
Yeah,
on that just a little bit for some of our listeners. Okay, so a converter does two things. One is it charges your 12-volt batteries, and two, it delivers 12 volts to the 12-volt side of your power distribution panel to send power to the things that work off of 12 volts. Like a
right,
main
right.
one, the easy one is your ceiling lights. The lights in your rig are going to be running off of 12 volts, but they also send the brains. This is a good way that we often talk about the difference between 12 volts and 120 volts AC is the 120 volts AC is the brawn that does the hard work.
Yeah,
The
like
12
running the
volt,
air conditioner. Yeah,
like running the air conditioner, and it's the 12 volts that gives power to the brains.
the
Right.
control board. Right.
So in this issue, so now going back to your explaining the problem, the control board for the AC was not getting 12 volts because the batteries were diminished because the converter wasn't working, correct?
Yes, yes, exactly. And therefore, all of a sudden his air conditioning wasn't working where it was the day before. And the issue there is, yeah, John is correctly diagnosed from afar. We still had 120 volts, still had AC power, had the brawn going to the air conditioning, but with not enough 12-volt power, the batteries rapidly dwindling. The board lost all of its brains off the 12-volt logic circuits weren't telling the AC to turn on. So while he thought he had a while, oh, this is no big deal. Actually, it is. Converter is an integral part, an important part of your electrical system, because without a good 12-volt supply, a lot of things start to fail in an RV. As John pointed out, both 12-volt powered things like RV lights, overhead lights, but also 120-volt powered things like air conditioners because they have a 12-volt control or 12-volt logic circuits that run the control boards. And so you take out the control board, you take out the whole AC.
So the converter that you had to replace, was it built into the power distribution panel or was it a deck mount? And for our listeners that are not familiar with what a converter actually looks like, in most of your travel trailers, your smaller travel trailers, certainly, you're going to have what's called a deck mount converter, and
Mhm.
it's maybe 12 inches wide by 6 inches wide and or 12 inches long, 6 inches wide, and maybe, 4 or 5 inches tall. It's just a metal
Right.
box. It literally gets screwed down to the deck, and then it has a plug, and you plug that into a 120 AC socket outlet, and then you connect two wires to the other side of that converter, and that's what sends the power into the power distribution panel and ultimately the battery, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes your converter is built into, it's more of an integral part built into the power distribution panel. And so it may be a little bit more complex to swap out, but they can be these two different types. So what did you have in this case?
Yeah, excellent point, John. This was a deck mounted, like you described, and they can be hardwired to 120 or a plug-in. There's literally and
Yep.
this was a plug-in, literally an outlet underneath the cabinet where it was located. And the first thing I did, and any tech should do, but RV owners can do this themselves. If you can find the converter, they all have a fuse right on the outside of them. So
Mm-hmm.
quick check is to see if that fuse is blown or if there's bigger problems inside the converter. So luckily this did have fuse. Unfortunately the fuse was not blown. So 120 volts was going in, but 12 volts wasn't coming out. Diagnosis, bad converter. Was able to remove and replace with a new one, known good one, and got his system back up and going. And then interesting fact here, because we plugged it in, tested it. I knew it was putting out probably 13.9, 14 volts or something at output, as it should. It hooked it in, no problems, charging the batteries, but things didn't come online immediately because the batteries needed to refill a bit. So once you run your batteries down to 10 volts or so, as soon as you plug them into 14, they don't jump right up. And so it takes a minute for things to come back online.
And, talking about, some of these things like this information that is good for us to have as mobile techs. If you bought your RV new, you should have received in that pile of paperwork. Probably the most important piece of paper in there, in my opinion, is you're going to have, it's typically called a PDI, pre-delivery inspection sheet. And sometimes they're very simple. It'll be like a checklist. AC working, check. Furnace working, check. But if you look in there, sometimes you'll find the same sheet or a different sheet, but it will then tell you AC working, check. Type of manufacturer, Coleman, model number, serial number, date installed. You might have a lot of information already there. If you don't have that, a really good thing that RV owners can start doing is every time you look at something in particular, use your cell phone, take a photograph of the data plate from these things and hang on to it or write it down. And that way, you have the records and you have the information when you need it. And the same on a converter. If for any reason you're digging around and you see it, because sometimes they're quite visible. They might be in a storage bay. You just look in the storage bay and here's a metal box that says converter on it. To know the make and model of that converter, that's great information when you call up a tech.
So
So,
what are some common sizes that we could tell the folks to be looking for in case that's listed on it?
well, I think your most common sizes are probably going to be 45, 55, and 65 amp converters
Right.
that are the deck mount style. Same actually for the ones that are built into your power distribution panel. So when we talk about the power distribution panel, also we're talking about typically it's a uh, plastic doors. You open them up, all of your breakers are there and all of your fuses are there. And if you have a converter that is built into the power distribution panel, typically on the side by the fuses, which is all your 12 volt, you're just going to kind of see some more wires and some more electronic looking things. And what you're looking for is a small, like a 4-inch or a 3-inch by 3-inch fan. And the fan doesn't run constantly, but if you see a fan there, that's the big clue that your converter is built into the power distribution panel. So then what you'd want, if you look on the front of the, probably inside the door, but then that's probably where you're going to have the manufacturer and the model number of that power distribution panel. So I had to replace one of those just a couple months ago, and it was as simple as looking at that. Hey, it was, I forget the brand, but here's the model number. Okay. I went to my supplier. Hey, I need a new converter for this power distribution panel. Boom. There we go. Install it. They were back up and running.
Yeah, that's one of those components that for a decent RV tech is not too difficult to replace. John, on the do-it-yourself or call a pro scale, where would you put a converter replacement?
Oh, that's a tough call because all these things really come down to ease of access. And the challenge in being an RV tech, in my opinion, is more quite often it is less about the technical knowledge of how something works and maybe why it failed. It is just physically getting our hands on it
Getting to
because
it. Yep.
everything is so tight. A lot of the tools that you and I both carry, and probably all technicians carry, are small tools to get into small places for just this reason. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say, converter, if you're comfortable around electricity, and there's plenty of resources to learn how to change these out, whether they're a deck mount or built in, turn all the power off. If you turn all the power off, unplug everything from your shore power, you're not going to get hurt if you do that. And then it's probably going to be on a scale of 1 to 10. I would call it like a 3 to a 6, just based on accessibility. I mean, you really ultimately all you're doing is you're disconnecting the old one, whether it's a deck mount or built in, and putting the same wires back in the same places. It's not that difficult. But again, when in doubt, particularly with your electrical issues, that's when you might consider calling a tech, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. And it's one of those things that can be very helpful to watch a technician do,
Exactly.
not just for that piece, because these don't break very often. You may only replace one, maybe you don't replace any in your lifetime as an RVer, but you begin to understand how power's coming in, where it's going out, how to be safe around power.
Yeah, excellent point. I agree. I might push it up the scale a little bit based on several I've seen that are pretty hard to get to, and the general concept that wiring can be intimidating, but you don't want to create a short or ground fault situation. You don't want to put a wire on the wrong terminal, things like that. So there's a little bit of risk. So I'd
Yep.
say not impossible. I wouldn't advise for taking it on though if you're a little unsure about electrical theory.
Yeah, and actually, you bring up a good point or recollection. You were with me, so for our listeners, Joe and I, we're in different parts of the country, but we actually get together once a year at a big horse show in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we hang out together and we work on rigs together. And last year we replaced a converter in a trailer for one of the exhibitors there, and the local supplier did not have the exact size, so we went up a size. We went from a 55 watt to a 65 watt or amp, excuse me, 65 from a 55 to a 65 amp converter deck mount, easily accessible. Couldn't have been any easier. But because we had to go up a size, it came with a different cord style. And so we ended up having to replace the entire outlet for it to plug into and stuff. So to Joe's point, not only is access an issue, but sometimes when a lot of things in RVs, you start running into other issues than just the primary one. Is that
Yeah.
fair to say, Joe?
Yeah, exactly. So, very RV dependent, but if in doubt, don't be afraid to call a technician, especially before you do something wrong. A lot of times it's easier to fix the original problem than to fix any kind of mistake that occurs due to a faulty repair.
So let me talk just a little bit about mobile RV techs before we wrap up for today. If you've never worked with a mobile RV tech, kind of what's the difference between, how Joe and I operate our businesses versus an RV shop? Well, don't have shops. We both have trucks. Vast majority of our equipment, our parts carried in our truck. We go to where the clients need help. It could be in an RV park. It might be at their home. It could be on the side of the road. It varies. And all mobile RV technicians, we're probably all about 90% the same in terms of what we do and how we do it. But then there's that other 10% of variance. And that variance can be, the hours we work, can be the days we work. It can be the type of work we choose to prefer to do. Certainly speaking for myself, as a one-person operation, there's a lot of things I physically cannot do. One, because I'm one person. Two, because it might require heavy equipment that I can't carry in my truck. So there are these different limitations. But when you access a mobile RV tech, if you've never had the experience before, for our listeners, typically you give us a call, tell us what the issue is. Like Joe said, it helps if you can give us as much specific information about the issue, when it occurred, how it occurred, what you're experiencing. If it's due to an appliance, the model, serial number, and then
When
what
the
you can
problem
expect,
occurred.
how the problem occurred, what are you doing to, what'd you do, how'd things change from the time it worked till
Yeah.
the time it does it now. A lot of that information is very useful. But in general, what you're going to end up with is the mobile tech saying, hey, yes, I can come out. It might be today. It might not be for a week or 2 or 3. We can be booked out quite some time. Typically, there is a service fee involved. That's to cover the cost of simply getting to you. And then there'll be an hourly rate usually to start. And then this is where there's other variances amongst RV techs, is how they will charge you for their time and or materials and things like that. And that varies quite a bit around the country. But in general, we want you to know, if you've never worked with an RV tech, a mobile RV tech, those are some of the things to know.
Yeah, excellent points. And where would you recommend if somebody is camping and they're not familiar, but they have a situation, they need to call somebody, where can they find an RV tech?
So the first thing I would do is go to the office at the park or resort where you're staying, because we all leave our cards and brochures at the areas, at the parks, resorts that we routinely service. People who work there often will have a relationship with 1 or 2 techs they may prefer to recommend, because those techs maybe seem to be more accessible or respond faster. But when you go there, you're going to be reaching out to somebody who serves the area where you are. That would be my first step. If you don't have access to that, or if you're somewhere where you're not in a park, then a great resource is the website rvhelp.com. That is a nationwide locator for not only mobile RV technicians, but also RV inspectors, which we will talk about some in the future, because Joe is a certified inspector as well as a certified technician. Everybody, all the businesses on that site, they're all mobile techs, and they are all certified through the same association that Joe and I are certified through. So, we all have, a standard of training, and we've passed the curriculum and the tests necessary to be certified through the RV Technicians Association of America. So rvhelp.com. You put in your zip code or the town. It's a nationwide locator, and our profiles will begin to pop up.
Yeah, that's an excellent resource, John. I'm constantly telling my customers, rvhelp.com. That's your friend that helps you out whenever you're far from home and don't know which way to turn. So, no, excellent episode. I appreciate the insights and the stories, and want to encourage all of our listeners and viewers to tune in to Smart RV for some more witty banter about the weather and great technical tips. John, you have anything to close out?
Yeah, just a last reminder. Joe, can you share the email address for Smart RV? Because if you have questions about your rig or just general questions about RVing, whether you are a RVer for enjoyment, or you're living full time, or if you are also an RV mobile tech, because we're going to be introducing more information to our segments that I think everybody will find interesting, but might be specifically directed more toward technicians. But if you have questions, send us an email and we will take your questions and answer them in future episodes. So the email is
Contact us at smart-rv.com. So CONTACTUS at smart-rv.com. Contact us at smartrv.com. We'll take the viewer feedback, the listener input, and you might be featured on a future episode.
And if you're watching this episode on YouTube, we will have that address down in the show notes. We'd love to get your questions. So, Joe, thank you for your time, buddy. Always a pleasure. And we will see you all soon.
Yeah,
Good night, Joe.
excellent. Take care. Bye.